The consideration is there are numerous departments in the county that collect money from the citizens, whether it be property taxes, tag renewals, hunting and fishing license, business license, and others. And we do those things in various locations in this building. And the consideration here is to be in some ways more efficient by cross-training some of those individuals who receive the money for the county, and then we could have one location where an individual could come up, and if they wanted to renew their mobile home license and their car tag, they could do it at the same window, rather than one here and then moving down the hall or upstairs to do the other. Right now, the revenue commissioner collects property taxes, and the probate judge oversees the collection of all of those other fees or tag renewals that I mentioned. So if this were to take place, it would require those duties and responsibilities for collection of those other monies and those employees to be shifted over to the revenue commissioner, who would then oversee all of the collections for the county. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the discussions that have taken place up to this point. I'm going to allow the revenue commissioner to come up and share with us his thoughts and potentially a purpose behind something like this as to why it would be beneficial for the county.
Thank you, Chairman. It's just really going to be one of those issues where I think it's going to going to allow us to provide better service to our citizens. It's going to allow us to be able to do things in our real property department, collecting property taxes. We'll be able to collect in Millbrook and Tallahassee through this model, which we currently do not do. It also allow us to have more hands on deck, because here it is. I have 3 ladies in my department, and we have, of course, 8 over here, that allow us to cross-train these ladies and our clerks here, that allow them to be able to, whether you're in my office or you're in the tag line, you can renew, you can pay your property tax, you can renew your, get your mobile home license, you can pay your tag, get your tag. So it's going to be almost like a one-stop shop for all places, all of your I guess your revenue streams that we're looking to kind of bring under one roof. It also will allow us to try to cut the cost on things like credit card fees, mail-outs, because all this will come under, whether it be our tag side, with our tags and what we mail out on the revenue side, we can bring that under one company and probably get a better bulk rate. Same thing with credit card companies. So we're just really looking at all avenues to really try to save the county just a little bit of money, so we can take on bigger projects in other areas. Let's see. Your business license area is also one that would benefit the business personal property side, being the fact that they get to work together with the business license with our business personal property to make sure we get an inventory of all businesses out there, because some of them, on the way they're coded right now, we're kind of missing some of those over a year period, and it's taking a little while to kind of audit that process. Make sure I'm hitting everything here. Technology stuff is allow us to kind of put everything revenue collection under one page online, and allow us to look at some options for whether it be an Elmore County app or something like that to make it more convenient for taxpayers to do their business on their phone or on the computer. Let's see, staffing, especially during peak times of the year, which is always an issue. During the summertime, it's extremely difficult for the ladies here in the tag department to get breaks along those lines, vacation time, because it's their busier time of year. Well, this time of year it's extremely busy for my ladies. They don't get breaks. They don't go on vacation because of that. Well, it'll allow us to be able to cross-train that to work kind of vacations during peak times a little bit better. Also, we're going to look at being able to work these departments no different than we would a teller line at a bank. We're working at peak time, so we're running at maximum efficiency. And really, last part of it is manufactured homes. Manufactured homes are actually kept under two roofs right now. One, the tag department collects a manufactured home for a license, and we do in the property tax side as well. So it's going to bring those under one roof, and it's going to allow us to audit and know where those are in the county a little bit better. So it's just one that kind of brings all the revenue together. We know where we're at. We're all working on the same page. It's going to create one collections department as opposed to a collections department here, a collections department there, and then we kind of have to pool all our revenue together. So, any questions?
I got a couple questions, Mr. Chairman. One question, the first question, and I'll address a question to you, Revenue Commissioner Macon. Where did the idea come from for us to do this? The initial idea?
I guess several years ago, I was in Coleman County. Coleman County, they actually do theirs a little different than we're looking at doing ours. Just because where ours, we have windows that are already set up, they actually have desks that allow a taxpayer to come in, sit at a desk, and do their business, and they can do all their business at that desk. But we don't have the facilities quite for that. But that's kind of where the idea came from, because I guess we looked at, 3 or 4 years ago doing a license commissioner type position from this, and the cost effectiveness. A position like that is going to run the county at least another $80,000. Well, this way we're just kind of bring it all under one roof. We look at the opportunity that we're going to ability to save on a lot of these areas. I think it's one that just to benefit the county that we do it this way, as opposed to try to go in and create another position, another office, another report we have to look at. So.
One thing, a question to my fellow commissioners, and then I'll make a statement in relation to the title and tags. I don't know if any of you guys have spoken to Judge Stubbs, who was a probate judge for 3 terms, and Revenue Commissioner Harper, who was elected 4 terms. Because I think it's important that us guys talk to them, because they got knowledge also about how those departments work. So my question is, I guess you don't have to answer me. If you hadn't talked to them, I suggest you do. That's just what I think. I've already talked to both of them, and both of them are against this idea, just so you'll know. But do you know why you don't have titles and tags today?
I do. I would assume that when we originally set up the office that way.
Well, when I talked to Mike today, when he was elected in his first term, he worked for Judge Enslin, your wife's granddad, for 3 years before he ran for office and got elected. Judge Enslin asked, that's John's dad, now not the existing Judge Enslin, asked that tags and titles be moved out of the probate office. So now we got the opposite happening. The son's in office and we want to move it back. The dad didn't think it was feasible to have tags and titles in his office, because I think Commissioner Macon, talking to Mike today, initially the probate judge was responsible for property tax foreclosures. We're talking 30 years ago now. We're not talking about today. So that kind of worked a trade-off. You take the tax foreclosures, and he takes the titles and tags. So what we're saying is those guys were wrong then, and we need to change it back to this situation. That's kind of one of my thoughts. But one question I did want to ask, that both of the gentlemen I talked to asked me point blank, explain to me in detail how this is going to save the citizens money specifically. Not that we might, through attrition, do away with jobs, or we might do this. What specifically is this going to do to save them money? And that's my last question.
Okay.
If we can't answer that, then we're talking about hypotheticals. We're not talking about facts.
Well, one of the first things it's going to do is it's going to expand our service to our taxpayers, and I think that's the first thing we have to look at, is that one, even if it doesn't cost us any more money, it's a service that we're providing to our taxpayers to allow them to go pay their property taxes in Millbrook or Tallahassee, It's gonna allow them the better service of, there are more people working windows, and the quicker that these things are going to get done for them. In a world right now where every second counts, we need to be able to get them in and out of here, and, you know, at best case, 15, 20 minutes, they should be in and out of here. We can provide them that, because we will have more people working for them to take care of their needs. Now, the savings part, we can look at whether it be through attrition, whether it be through whether it be upgrading workstations, mail-outs, where we combined the mail-out side of it, whether we're doing credit card processing. Those things are things that are savings to our taxpayers that will continue to be over time, because we can go out there and we can negotiate these things, and we can bring these type things to the table. Now, we also have to look at the opportunities on things like mobile homes. Will it create us the opportunity to further our revenue stream? Yes, it will, because right now we actually have a open position that would be for a mobile home inspector to go out and, well, guess what? We don't need that position anymore. We don't need a mobile home inspector, because guess what? They would all fall under my department. I have appraisers that are going out in the field already. There's no reason to fill that position. Plus, it allows us to make sure that we're accounting for every one of those mobile homes that are out there. And if we are not accounting for them, guess what? That is more revenue that we're getting. So, and that's kind of for starters, but you know, hopefully that answers some of your questions. Now, I have talked with Jimmy, and first thing he looked at me and goes, "Why would anybody want tags?" was his first response to me. I did not talk with Mike about it, but I worked with Mike for several years. And I'm not looking at it as how it changes my office. I'm looking at it as how I can use this to provide a better service to the citizens of Elmore County.
Appreciate your response, and I think that this is why we're having this public hearing, so that we can discuss these things and determine what is best, and evaluate and hear what people have to say. I will shed a little light on the reason the probate judge for many, many years was collecting all of the fees and tags and license and everything else is over 100 years ago. That is how the probate judge was paid. He was paid a percentage on everything that was renewed and brought in. So probate judges wanted everything to come through their office. As things modernize, that has changed. There's one county in the state of Alabama that still does that, and that probate judge, no one knows how much money that probate judge makes. He doesn't disclose it because it's all percentage of all the revenue that comes in, and as you can imagine, that concept may have worked 100 years ago, but now it's so fluid now with so many vehicles and so many other things being paid for. So I appreciate Commissioner Holt's questions, and those are definitely things for us to consider and people for us to talk to and get thoughts and ideas from. Thank you, Commissioner.
Add one thing.
If any other commissioners have questions for Mr. Macon, we can do that, and then we'll open it up to anyone in the audience who would like to participate.
Ms. Sherwin, I don't have a question, but from a personal perspective, one advantage I can see to this in having the regional locations in the different municipalities is for convenience of our citizenry in Elmore County, particularly the senior citizens. We have so many senior citizens in this county who depend on public transportation. So the nearer the better when it comes to taking care of their property taxes and so forth. I'm sure they'd rather go to their community in which they live in, or their municipality if they live in Millbrook or wherever, than having to make arrangements to come to Wetumpka. So that's one positive aspect I can certainly see, especially for our senior citizens.
Yes, I wanted to say that the probate judge here in our county is the scenario that you gave, that he's getting money, but he's not in this county. It's not like that. He's on a fixed salary, and another thing, if we gonna cross train the other people, we taking duties away, give added extra duties to the people that's gonna be doing that, And the ones that we just gave a raise to, they wasn't justified with that, and now they don't have less. But I'm all for looking at it and see what the real cost is, because it's we need to enhance our employees' salaries that's going to be doing this additional duty, and we also, and I'm all for the senior citizens and not traveling that far, but you understand, I want to make sure we see where the bottom line saving is.
And, in relation to your statement, Mr. Chairman, about 100 years ago when the money being divided, I concur with what Commissioner Reeves said. I don't think Judge Edward Insland, who was a relative of mine and a personal friend, I don't think he gave away the title and task because he didn't want to get the income from commissions.
I didn't bring that up to make it sound like that was currently happening. That is
No.
a historical fact. Now,
Right.
it changed, and it changed before Edward Insland was the judge.
Right. So,
Well, and I think that what we've seen since then is technology has become the issue. Because I can tell you, I remember when I was an appraiser in 2001, when I came into the office, we were still handwriting everything. We were still filling out everything on a sheet of paper and having files. And I mean, it was a different process than it is now. Today, the majority of everything that we do is automated process. We try to pass as little paper around if we have to. So that's what makes this process different now than it was 30 years ago, is that it's an all automated process. It's an all computer process. When you go stand in front of a window, whether or not you're paying your property tax or tag renewal, guess what? You can pull it up and it functions right there on the same screen. It's not a difficult process on both sides for either one to learn, because we do training on that on a regular basis through the tag department and through our office. So ladies learning, our clerks learning those, it would not be an extremely difficult process as it would have been 30 years ago when we were really handwriting everything and filling everything out. The process has changed really a lot the last 10 years really, when we started really going fully automated. So that's the big change in kind of where we're at and kind of where we're looking at going, is that we're trying to make this process as seamless and as and work the best for our taxpayers. That's why I think that we've kind of looked at this process, because where it may be a headache, because guess what, it's going to cause more work on my end for me to take care of it. But it's one that providing a better service to our citizens is probably it's the most important thing that we have to look at. Just because it sometimes may not be the easiest thing to do, we have to look at it because it's providing the better service for our taxpayers. So, and that's.
Commissioner Macon, I just want to say I appreciate your willingness to make a change to better serve the citizens. I think we need to do everything we possibly can to make it easy for people to be compliant on a mandate or to a mandate that the government puts on them. And so, as I understand this properly, those citizens in Millbrook and Tallahassee, if this goes through, would be able to pay anything they need to pay to the county, just like they can at the courthouse in Wetumpka.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Very good. That's all I have, Chairman. Thank you.
I think we'll take an opportunity if anyone who's with us tonight would like to come to the podium and make any comments or ask any questions. We welcome you to do that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Please, when you come to the podium, just give us your name and your address, please.
My name is Bobby Mays, M-A-Y-S. I'm in Commissioner Stubbs, I believe it is. I think I'm in your district, sir. My address is 815 Greer Road. This issue about changing or transferring duties from the probate to a different office, it strikes me as one that looks like might not ought to be done. And one of the reasons is, I remember just recently, before this commission was commissioned, there was a whole lot of yakety-yak between the then commission and Judge Insland's office about the large amount of work that the probate office was doing compared to other offices, And he used that analysis to trumpet, if you will, a need for the increase in salaries of those people in the probate office. And to my knowledge, it may not have gone through initially, but subsequent to that, it has been approved. And so now here we are today talking about taking some of those same duties from those same employees, where the data that was used to increase their wages, I don't know what we're saying about that today. I think that one of the comments I believe I heard Commissioner Macon make was something about cross-training. I think cross-training is a good idea, and now that we've gotten parity in the wages in the different departments, why don't you go ahead and do the parity in, the cross-training? It makes sense to do that because you make a good point about people taking breaks, people going on vacation, and so on and so on. So much of that problem could be alleviated if you went ahead with that cross-training stuff, and you could do that without necessarily removing those duties from, en masse, if you will, from the probate office over to another office.
Can I clarify something just quickly?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think when we discuss, and if I understand this correctly from Commissioner Macon, my understanding is we are not taking duties away from anyone. All of the clerks, the revenue clerks, the tag clerks, the revenue clerks which are in the revenue commissioner's office, the tag clerks which are in the probate office, they would all do everything. So we're actually adding duties to everyone. The revenue commissioners would be required to learn or cross-train to learn how to collect tags, how to collect mobile home, how to renew a business license and such. And the tag clerks would be required to learn how to collect property taxes and other things. So what we're actually saying is all of those individuals would all be elevated in their responsibilities, which is a grand opportunity for this commission to evaluate compensation, to cross-train, be more efficient, to make vacations and other things easier to do, and all the things that you just mentioned. The reason we can't cross-train right now is because they work for different people. You can't have the tag department collecting property tax because Revenue Commissioner Macon is responsible for property taxes and Judge Enslin is responsible for tax. So if they were cross-trained and one of the tag clerks makes a mistake on property taxes, it's his fault. And so we would have issues there.
Thank you for that clarity, Chairman Judge. But I find it a little bit difficult to take all of what you say because when I read the agenda, it clearly says transferring those duties from the probate judge to the revenue commissioner. Yep. And so what I'm saying...
That is the duties of being in charge of the tag department.
Well, whatever the duties are, and we don't need to split hairs here, I'm simply saying that if the idea is to establish a one-stop tag program whereby duties are or have been or will be transferred from the probate judge to the revenue commissioner. I'm saying that...
What are the duties of the probate judge?
I can't tell you what they are.
Well,
only to say... Well, hold on a second. What I'm saying is, if you're going to transfer those duties from the probate office over to anywhere, earlier, we've already talked about those duties in the probate office, the ones you're talking about transferring, those duties being of such a nature that they warranted an increase in those employees' salary. And now that we've gotten that increase in salary, here we come now wanting to transfer those duties. Those things not making sense to me. And so
you're not understanding what we're saying.
I hope that by the time I leave here, I'll understand.
Well, I'm attempting to explain. The duties that we are referring to on the agenda are the duties of the probate judge as the department head of the tag office.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the individuals that work in the tag office, the clerks. The duties that the judge has, which are, he is responsible for every penny that comes into the tag office. If we consider, which is all we're doing right now, we haven't made any decisions, we're considering taking those duties of the probate judge, of being responsible for every penny that comes into that office, and moving those personnel, those clerks, who work for the probate judge, moving that department essentially underneath the revenue commission.
So that when those people are moved over there, Troy, you're telling me they wouldn't be doing the work? The, revenue commissioner would be doing the work?
I'm telling you that they would then fall under the revenue commissioner as a collections clerk.
And who would those worker bees be?
The tag clerks who work for the probate judge currently, and the revenue clerks, which currently work for Commissioner Macon.
Right, and those clerks that would leave the probate office and go over to Macon's office to perform those duties, would those clerks be doing those duties?
They are still doing the tag duties, and they will be doing property taxes and the other, we are going to cross-train them. So there is no employee that's shirking any responsibility. There is no one who's doing any less than they are currently doing. In fact, all of these employees would then be tasked with the responsibility of learning, acquiring skills, to be able to collect all types of revenue for the county. Right now, we have a handful of individuals who work for Commissioner Macon. They only collect property tax.
Okay.
That's all they do. We have a group of 15 or 20 people who collect tags for the probate judge. What we're talking about is that group of 15 or 20 people moving over to the revenue commissioner, where they will continue to collect tags, and they will acquire the skills to collect property taxes. And his existing property tax clerks will acquire the skills to collect tags. So we will have a larger group of people who can all do everything.
So then what does that bode then for?
I hope it bodes for all of them.
Let me finish, please.
Better because they'll all be doing more.
Let me finish. What does that bode for Commissioner Macon's duties, responsibilities, and compensation? If he is then going to be responsible for those 5, the handful that you made reference to, and then the other 15 that you made reference to, would he then not be, in essence, doing more work even though he's the manager and he still has those worker bees?
At that point, he would be responsible for all of those things, all of the money coming into the county, tags, whatever. So yes, his responsibilities would be more.
Here's what I would ask the commission, that even though I certainly appreciate Chairman Stubbs' extensive explanation, I still remain convinced that those duties that you're talking about transferring from the probate office to the revenue commissioner's office, I do not believe it to be a fiscal sensible thing to do. And one final question I believe I had planned to ask Chairman Macon when he was up, Commissioner Macon when he was up. What costs do we have now under the current structure that we would no longer have under the new structure? What are those costs? And how have those costs been vetted? I'm asking that to Commissioner Macon.
The whole cost, one, where we look at savings, where we look at.
Have you documented those costs? Now, those costs already known?
Well, those costs are not known because, for one, and I can tell you, we can start the same process with just transferring this office underneath without any change. They will keep doing the same function. We could do it and leave it just as it is. We could. But why would we have 18 people and 3 of them not be able to do the same job? All of them not be able to do the same job?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, well, that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking these 2 departments. We're taking 18 people that collect taxes. And all we're doing is transferring them to me. Let's say we don't change a thing, and it just keeps functioning just the way it is right now. Is that a problem? Is that a problem? They said, we don't change anything. We leave it just the way it is. We just move the responsibility to me to collect that money, as opposed to probate. Now then, we're gonna take those extra in my department, and we're gonna cross-train those, so we can broaden our touch with the community. That's exactly what we're doing. That's our goal. Is to be able to touch more of our taxpayers. Provide better service.
I got a question.
Yes.
And I'm for service, big time. I worked in the service industry.
Yes.
If you don't service the public, if you work at a private business, you lose that clientele.
Correct.
And I'm for service, and I'm for doing it right. But I'll go back to you, Mr. Chairman, and let's look at the probate office for a second. And that doesn't affect you, Commissioner Macon. We don't do marriage license in Elmore County anymore. I don't know if all y'all know that.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're going to take titles and tags away. So what does that leave a probate judge to do? We're going to take away 3 major functions out of that office, and it's going to cost us the same amount of money to pay the probate judge. But we're not going to allow those services to be performed in the probate office. I mean, there's a lot of, and I'm not against this. I'm for open discussion. So that's going to leave the probate judge down to probate issues with competency hearings and to record mortgages. And you're going to do the rest for $3,000 a year.
I think the difference is that the state probably will require the probate judge to be a little more involved now in the legal side of things than they have been in the past. And that was from my discussions with our current probate judge. And so, yes, he still will be over that. He's also over elections, which is, so he's over several other things right now and
Right.
Outside of just that.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else like to come to the podium and comment regarding this particular issue? We appreciate those that have participated, and I think that just to remind everyone here, this is a public hearing, and the purpose of this is to get the input of commissioners, participants in this potential for this considered idea, and the public, and we appreciate hearing what everyone has to say. This is by no means something that has been decided. This is all for the purpose of hearing what people have to say so that we can consider what is best for the county. We'll proceed now to the regular business. Review the minutes of the October 23rd, 2017 commission meeting and corrections. Are there any comments or corrections on that? All right, we'll proceed with the review the memorandum of warrant for the period of October 19, 2017 through November 3, 2017.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, for the period stated, the memorandum of warrants totaled $1,725,798.81.
Thank you. All right, we'll proceed with the old business. Discuss rescheduling the public hearing for a 020 restaurant retail liquor license application by El Patron Mexican Grill LLC for El Patron Mexican Grill, 65 Lightwood Road, Beachville, Alabama 36022, to Monday, November 27, 2017 at 5 p.m. For clarification, this was on our agenda last meeting, and we were scheduled to have the public hearing tonight. However, the required advertisement by the restaurant owner, El Patron Mexican Grill, was not published as required prior to the meeting, so we will push that public hearing to the 27th in anticipation of their publication of the required notice in a paper between now and then, so that the public is aware of that public hearing. We'll proceed now with new business. Revenue Commissioner Lee Macon, 2 items come forward.
I just have on here to advertise and hire for a mapper 1 position, which was became vacant a couple of months ago. I'm just going about it now because I wanted to wait till we cleared the budget budget season, save a little bit of money, but my employee actually got stolen from me by Eric over there, so she went up to EMA and left me with a vacant mapping position. And then I have one in my mapping department, which, just to reclassify her position, she is doing the job of a GIS tech, which is a little bit more than just key and deed. She's also doing some light mappings and along those lines. So those are the two things I have on the agenda here. Do you have any questions?
Any comments or questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Macon. Thank you. All right, we'd like to invite Charlene Smith from Troy University to come forward and briefly provide us with her services that she potentially could provide to the county.
Good evening. I was asked to come and talk to y'all about several different systems within your human resource department. And if you'll open your folder that I gave you, I do want to kind of explain what is on the left side. I was told that probably a Vita, or what is a long resume, would be appropriate for y'all, for me. And what I did also on the very last page was put all the clients I've had over 34 years of business that dealt with the same projects of which y'all are inquiring. The next is, on that same side, is a packet of information from Troy University Continuing Education. Because most people do not know, have been employed at other universities throughout my career as well as other governments. And recently, 3 years ago, I was asked by Troy University to come develop their continuing education outreach program, which I did. So most people aren't aware, but that's also to give all commissioners an idea of what we actually do and are capable of doing. The last page of that has my staff on it, and those would be consultants who would be possibly helping if this project comes to fruition. If you'd like to go to the other side with the blue on it, I wanted to just start by saying I know that I was told by the chairman that I think it's 3 of y'all have your own companies. I know Commissioner Reeves has been in various organizations. But what I wanted to start with, because y'all had a lot to talk about. There were talk about, I was requested to give information on job descriptions, rewriting those because they've not been updated since the Mercer study, which was a little over 15 years ago. On top of that, the classification and salary survey, also the performance management systems, of which are considered the performance evaluation process and the progressive discipline system. So the first sheet that you see just shows you the importance of a job description, accurate and current. And what I want to do is take it from the top and go around quickly. Your job description is the monumental, the ultimate document that controls all HR functions. If you're going to have a job announcement, it comes from the job description. You screen applicants according to the job description. You interview applicants according to the job description. You hire employees based on a current job description. You set their probationary status and goals based on a job description. You evaluate existing employees, supervisors, everyone, based on a job description. You give them performance feedback based on a job description. You provide pay for performance raises based on a job description. Then you'll see the circle takes a left, and that is because if someone is disciplined, coached, counseled, or even to the point of suspension or termination, it comes from the job description. If you look at an employee who actually has served the county well and its citizens, you have possible promotion, which is based on a job description. So the first thing that you look at when you're looking at redoing some of your HR systems is that your job descriptions must be updated. Several reasons. First of all, they need to be in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. When I was here in 2007, we looked at that, but only slightly. But that was not done with the Mercer study because at that point, ADA had not been as defined. So that would be one in a job description. Every employee has a job description. It's called a position description. Now, if you look at in the revenue, all the people that work with, or what they hope to do, work with collections, if all of those positions do similar duties on their job description, they become a job family, or in other words, what is called a classification. Okay? All of those need to be looked at again, because in all the consulting I do around the nation, right now is a key time due to automation, technology, online advances for county services, as well as equipment. All of those things are now at a time when most job descriptions do not match how people are actually doing their job. And so those need to be updated. So on the second page where it says Elmore County Project, the things that I would propose that need to get done based on the people I've met with is modify or create job descriptions that are accurate to job duties. That's called criterion reliability. And through a documented process called job analysis, which is content validity. Secondly, compare the new job descriptions to the current classification structure and see if the classification structure can actually house all of the different, or do we need to add a classification or even collapse a classification. The third one is modify the classification structure. The next one is conduct a salary survey or similarly situated organizations, which for the most part will be counties with the similar amount of jobs that are, and also the similar amount of citizens. It would also be, you could actually go over into other states and look at those particular counties. You would also want to compare, as an example, you would compare the County Highway Department to certain jobs, maybe with the Alabama Department of Transportation. And you would collect that data based on the job description and look at the salary survey and how we fall out. And what I mean by that is you would have a beginning, what's called a minimum salary, and an upper salary. And then that can be, once that data is collected, that's something that the commission can determine how they want to, it's called step increases over time, how you would want that to run. Most step increases, there are 18 steps within a classification. To give you an example. Next would be create a new classification and pay plan, again, which was not done since the Mercer study, and that way everything would be current for your HR at this time. In addition to that, I was here in 2007 and created for the county a performance appraisal system, evaluation system, and a progressive discipline system, and then each supervisor spent up to 5 days in training I see a smile, in that, learning how to do it. Okay, so I've gone back and looked at what was given to y'all in 2007. There are only just a minimum amount of modifications because that system is still what we consider state of the art. The two things that would need to be looked at would actually lessen any of the supervisory documentation and responsibilities. If that's not making sense to you, let me put it this way. The two main complaints, not just when I worked with your folks in 2007, but wherever I've implemented a system, the two main things is, number one, too much documentation, and I have to talk to my employee all the time. Well, those are actually, in the last 10 years, things that have changed in how performance evaluations are set in. So this would actually lessen the time required by your supervisors, but still be fair and equitable in rating your employees. Then, If you do modify that, then you'd have to look at training. Training now also has changed. What I would propose is several hours for executives, and that would actually be the commission and the heads of departments, because they would need to know, okay, if we are gonna give a raise in the future, if we have the money to give a raise, here's how it's being done. So just a 2-hour minimum, time with y'all to explain it. Then supervisors, 3 or 4 half days, not whole days, of training suited around their schedule. So it could be morning, afternoon, or even midday. And then lastly, the employees would have a briefing of 2 to 3 hours, and that could be done in you could have 100 people if that many could get off at one time. And the very last thing, in looking at this and talking to Rhonda, I realized that, and by the way, part of that training is called employment law, because that deals with performance appraisals and evaluations, and progressive discipline. And the last thing I found out, there's not been a sexual harassment training that anyone can ever remember. And so what I would throw in there is a 2 or 3 hour sexual harassment training for all employees of the county, because that is something that now tends to be required by law every 2 to 4 years of any organization. So I would just throw that in. If you go to the next page, I wanted to give you the needs and requirements according to, like, why would the county enter into this? There's organizational reasons. The Mercer study was over 15 years ago. Your job descriptions are outdated. Your classifications are not current and accurate. Your salary survey may be outdated. I can't say it is until we actually did a survey of the pay. Performance systems were not implemented in 2007 across all departments, and your performance management systems need to be updated just a tad. On the legal side, something that I had not presented when I was here in 2007, there's a document called the Uniform Guidelines inside the Federal Register. These guidelines were created by the Department of Commerce, the Department of Justice, and the Equal Opportunity Commission. And it actually says in Section C of that document, it says any test must follow the guidelines in the Uniform Guidelines. And tests are defined as any document or action that is used to make a personnel recommendation. That could be hiring, compensation, promotion, demotion, termination, or suspension, and even more. So, what am I saying right there? If you turn to the last bullet, I go back to your job descriptions. We've got to look at an informal or formal, whichever you prefer, job analysis, because content, reliability, and criterion validity are called into question if not conducted according to the requirements, if and when you had a Department of Labor charge, an EEOC complaint, or a lawsuit with a judge or jury in court. The very last 2 pages, which I will leave for y'all, what I've done is outlined everything in detail in a project proposal, which you can look at the project task, and on the second side of that document is even more than I'm standing up here telling you about each of the process, but I would leave y'all to look over that as you would. Any and all could be done. You've got the performance appraisal system. You've got the discipline system. I would think it would be efficient as well as effective. Efficiency meaning for the cost savings, to go ahead and modify those slightly from 2007, and you have a brand new system that could go into effect. Your job descriptions and the classification and salary survey would need to be conducted, but that has actually changed since Mercer did it. There are online and there are capabilities to look up salaries, as well as there's a actual program that we have at Troy where it looks at salaries across the United States. So even having to go out and call a county and say, can I please talk to the personnel director? Will you send me? Those things are now automated for the most part, which reduces cost. What questions can I help you with?
I certainly appreciate you taking the time to meet, I know I met with you last week and provide us with some information regarding, what you have done for the county in the past. We, obviously, not all of us were here
Right.
at that time, and so it's good for us to know what was prepared and what information was delivered at that time, and we all recognize some of the deficiencies that we have in the county with respect to policies and procedures and all of the other things that you mentioned. So it's obviously something that we do want to address. I think that the next phase in terms of evaluation, I would hope that the commissioners would take an opportunity to look over this. If anybody would like to meet with her individually or anything like that in the next week or so, I think that would be great. She provide us with her contact information. And I think as you well know, decisions like this oftentimes come down to dollars and cents and what
Right.
the cost of something like this is. So maybe as we determine what areas we would need or what would be our priorities, maybe you can provide us with some structure in terms of what something like this would cost, and we can
I'd be happy to.
determine where we would be. Any other comments or questions?
And I can do that if I was allowed to meet with your HR director and get an accurate number on your classifications and positions. That would be easy enough to do.
I'm not opposed to you getting that information. Anybody?
No.
No, not at all.
Yeah, we'll be happy to coordinate that so that you can get that information so you can give us some accurate numbers.
Okay, thank y'all so much.
Thank you. All right, we'll proceed now. We have a citizen who has requested to speak, Mr. Bobby Mays. You come to the podium. You don't have to go through the,
Commissioners, if you don't mind, I've already addressed issues that I wanted to address, so you can move on to whoever's next on the agenda.
Okay.
Those issues that I discussed earlier were the issues that I wanted to talk about.
Okay, all right, well, good enough. Thank you very much. Mr. Michael Waters.
Good evening. My name is Michael Waters. My address is 85 Bellinggraph Road, Elmore, Alabama, and my phone number is 514-0349. First, I want to tell you I will be brief, but I want to thank you for this opportunity to provide public comment at this meeting. And my comments are focused on what I believe are lingering questions of transparency and accountability in regards to the county's operational transition plan for the former county administrator's position. My concerns are not just with the claims that it will save the taxpayer dollars, but also with how decisions were made. During the Commission's October 10th meeting, the transition plan following the retirement of Ms. McDuffie was touted as an opportunity to, quote, maximize the skills of the employees we currently have in the county. Commissioner Stubbs called for a restructuring of county government and operations by not replacing Ms. McDuffie, but instead redistributing the administrator's duties among current county officials who would be provided increased compensation for taking on the additional responsibilities. The Commissioner also claimed that by implementing this plan, we are, quote, not spending more taxpayer dollars. In fact, we are saving because of the benefits that we are not paying for an additional employee. And we are showing commitment to those who have committed to our county. While that may be well-intentioned, it raised some questions in my mind that were not addressed, while claiming that we would save by not paying benefits. How could the Commission claim that this move would save taxpayer dollars when we, the public, didn't know exactly how many county officials would pick up additional duties and what would be their increased compensation? Further clouding the issue was a motion at that meeting made at that meeting to approve the creation of a new position, the Chief Engineer and Operations Officer. My belief was that we needed a side-by-side, line-item look at the administrator's salary and the benefits package in comparison to exactly who would get what under the new plan. These lingering questions were not answered during the Commission's October 23rd meeting. The transition plan was not publicly released or publicized prior to or during that meeting, and Commissioner Reeves, the chairman of the Commission's Personnel Oversight Committee, pointed out that he had not seen the job description or salary analysis for the new position. Commissioner Reeves was clearly justified in raising concerns on the record as to why this plan was being pushed through in such a rushed fashion while sacrificing standard protocols or practices in creating the new position. He went on to say that, quote, something's got to be wrong. How do you pass this change with no transparency and lingering questions? Now, since that time, it's become apparent to me that the Chief Engineer and Operations Officer position was created for the current county engineer, Mr. Bayer, but this only raises, to me, some additional questions. While you're not adding a new employee to the county government, what were Mr. Bayer's qualifications to fill the position? There's no doubt in my mind that he is a superb engineer, but what are his qualifications to serve as an administrator? As this was a new position, shouldn't it have been advertised openly for anyone to apply? Further question. As the State Department of Transportation pays 70% of the salary for county engineers, has the Commission formally asked DOT to continue subsidizing his new salary even though he is performing additional non-engineering duties? And has DOT agreed to that? It is also apparent that in addition to Mr. Bayer, the other employees who have picked up duties from Ms. McDuffie or Luke McGinney, the former assistant engineer, who now becomes the deputy chief engineer, and Neil Seriak, I hope I'm not butchering that name, the former assistant administrator, who now becomes the chief administration officer, chief financial officer. Aside from Mr. Seriak, who has previous administrative experience, what specific criteria was used to determine why Mr. Bayer and Mr. McGinney were chosen? If the Commission is truly going to be transparent and accountable, in addition to answering these questions, the previous question, you need to disclose the complete details of the contracts and compensation provided to all three individuals so that we can have that side-by-side comparison that proves the plan actually saves taxpayer dollars. And I'll add a little, just a brief postscript, because it wasn't lost on me sitting here tonight listening to the previous presentation from Ms. Smith. As you heard about the importance of job descriptions, and you have a commissioner who had your personnel subcommittee stating that he had not seen a job description or salary analysis, and you just heard her talk about how important that is, having those job descriptions and salary analysis in making your human resources personnel decisions. Can't you as commissioners see the disconnect that then exists relative to the creation of these new positions? Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, I'll address a few of those things. If you please stay there, I have some questions for you.
Sure.
First, there is no personnel oversight committee. It does not exist. Commissioner Reeves is the liaison for personnel, just as Commissioner Holt is the liaison for transportation. So
it was just reflected in the media that way.
You know, I can't control what the media says or does. Obviously, you know, I appreciate you coming and sharing some of your thoughts and feelings. You know, just my observation, Mr. Mays had many of the same exact questions, and You know, he called all 5 commissioners. I met with Mr. Mays for about an hour and a half on Friday afternoon. All of the questions with regards to compensation, numbers, the fact that we pay Ms. McDuffie, we paid Ms. McDuffie $117,457.83, which was her total compensation with benefits. And the increases with those 3 individuals you mentioned is $74,141, which reflects an approximate $40,000 savings for this year alone. You know, that information is not secret. Now, could we or should we have, as a commission, stood up or sat at this meeting and gone through every one of those items line by line? Maybe we could have. You know, all of this information was provided in an email to all of the commissioners on October the 3rd. On October the 13th, which was our next commission meeting, all of this information was in our packet, which is public information that any citizen can come up and get. You know, you've taken the liberty to write 2 letters to the editors citing basically what the newspaper writes about all of these things, and in many cases accusing me of all kinds of different things, yet today was the first day you came up to the county office soliciting this information. You never once called me. You never once asked any of these commissioners any of these questions.
Yes, I have. You may not know that. I have talked to some other folks.
Okay.
And
who are those
I did not, well, I talked to Commissioner Reeves,
okay.
you know,
I
about...
received the email on October the 3rd, and on October the 10th, he and I sat in that office right over there for an hour and talked about all of these things.
Okay. Commissioner Stubbs, I hope you don't take it personal. I wasn't accusing you. I was just going by what my observation was. You made some claims, so please don't take it personal.
Well,
if I have questions, I'm going to air those questions.
Right, and my point is you've had questions apparently for 3 weeks, yet you sat on them and haven't asked me anything, yet I'm the target of all of these things. It says Stubbs' plan is the headline of your article. This is not Stubbs' plan. This passed 4-1 by this commission right here. It's not my plan. This is a plan adopted by the county commission, and it's been put into place.
Fair enough, but I still have questions about it.
When I, as an individual, have concerns about what people are saying or doing, or I read something in the newspaper and it frustrates me and I don't understand, I pick up the phone.
Well, did you pick up the phone and call me if you felt that I was misrepresenting? It works both ways, Commissioner.
I can't believe you're trying to turn this back.
No, I'm just asking a question.
The first time I read these was today, because I have a wonderful wife who reads the newspaper, and she said, someone's saying things about you in the paper, and I don't want you to have to read it.
Okay.
And you know what? I love her for that, actually, because I knew what the headline said because a couple people had commented to me. All I'm asking, and I appreciate you being here. Look, we have more people here tonight than we've had in the last 7 meetings. I love when people come to these meetings. No one's trying to silence anybody. We have you here. I'm more than happy to have you on the agenda anytime you would like. All I'm asking is, there are many ways to do things. And I've observed 2 individuals with the same frustration do it 2 different ways. And all I'm suggesting is I have nothing to hide. I'm always willing to talk about any of these things. I'm always available. I don't mince words. I don't dodge questions.
Fair enough, sir. But neither do I.
And
fair enough. And neither do I. So I'm sorry if I offended you and you took it personal as if this was an attack. But I go back to the fact, too, that other folks reached out. I spoke with Commissioner Reeves. He called me, okay? What's the problem with you doing the same if you felt that I had unfairly characterized you in the paper? It cuts both ways, sir. That would be my last comment.
Well, I appreciate you turning this back.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll proceed with the discussion of private cemetery application for Manger Family Property in Titus, Alabama.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners,
Yes, sir.
as the beginning of this meeting, we are lacking 2 items that we are required to have to proceed on with the license for the cemetery. The health department has not given us final approval. I think that had something to do with a fee and an inspection. And then we're also waiting the survey. So if we can get that to be just put on the next agenda, we were doing our best to try to make sure we did not hold up the approval of the cemetery, thinking that all this would be in place by tonight.
So we're waiting on the health department?
Yes, sir.
Let me make a comment in relation to that. Since it's in my district, and the lady's been dead for a month, she's already buried there. Because I got a call from the brother, and he didn't want to speak on the phone because, you know, how that can be on a cell phone. So I went to his house. His dad, he lives with his mom and dad, a week or so ago, and she had been brought from Clovis, New Mexico to Wetumpka Memorial, as I mentioned, I think, to you, Richie. Didn't you and I talk about? Oh, we didn't. Okay, I talked to Bart. I'm sorry, talked to Bart, right? Commissioner Mercer.
I just knew her body was in state. That's one reason
yeah.
we were trying our
well,
best to make sure it was
right.
on the
Well,
agenda.
she's there.
So.
As far as being buried, because they got tired of waiting. You know, when you're on the process. I mean, how long do you let a person stay in a mortuary before you put them somewhere? So he went ahead and had her buried. So she's already there. And I do know that he knows the details because Kimberly gave me a printout. I gave that to him, and that's where we're at. So good, bad, or indifferent, she's already buried on that property.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure y'all are aware of all the facts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Okay, we'll proceed. Consider Financial Edge accounting software renewal agreement with Blackbaud.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this item and the next one both have to do with the county's financial software, and they're both requests for 3-year renewals for the software. Most of you probably are aware that that is all web-based, so it's not like you can just up and leave the finance accounting software just on any day. So we're kind of locked into that, but also they spent a lot of time many years ago getting that in place. It works fabulously. Now they're trying to Neil's doing his best to try to make sure I'm up to speed on all the nuances of it. So for that, Financial Edge and the Paper Save, they're both the same tied to the same financial system.
Okay. I'll go ahead and read the Consider Paper Save accounting software renewal agreement with White Owl, which, as Mr. Byers stated, is connected to our accounting software. Okay, we'll proceed with discuss fiscal year 17 additional EMPG grant funding for Certified Local Emergency Manager certification and the cooperative grant agreement.
Mr. Chairman, this is the additional money that Elmore County is entitled to from the EMPG grants that come our way because our EMA director is gone through all the certifications and continues to have his certification upheld, and so we are one of the several counties in the state to get the additional $12,000 allocated to our EMA program.
Thank you. All right, we'll proceed with the next reimbursements. Consider petition for reimbursement of excess funds from tax sale of real property by Stanley D. Foster for number 2919-06-24-0-000-002.001. And considering a petition for reimbursement of excess funds from tax sale of real property by Stanley D. Foster for number 2919-06-24-0-000-002.004. Anything on that, Mr. Courtney?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed that. There's some additional documentation that needs to be submitted
By Mr. Foster?
by Mr. Foster. So it's not.
Is he aware of that?
No, sir. I don't believe that he is aware of that. If we could address this at the next meeting, I think I can solve all of those issues with him between now and then.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Courtney from any commissioners? Okay, we'll proceed. Items on the consent docket. We have the travel memorandum. We have declaration of emergency illness for Cole Cousins and approve 40 hours sick leave donation from Richie Byer to Cole Cousins. Any comments or questions? Okay, we'll proceed with personnel notifications. Notification of transfer of Taryn Franklin from dispatch to task force analyst, new budgeted position, effective 10/30/17. Notification of transfer of Lona Jeannie Ward from sheriff's office to dispatcher tier 2, replace T. Franklin, effective 10/31/17. Notification of hire of Catherine Erin, administrative clerk, replace L. Ward, effective 10/30/17. Notification of hire of Chase Jenkins, corrections officer, replace J. Estes, effective 10/30/17. Notification of hire of Jesse Hill, corrections officer, replace K. Smith, effective 11/13/17. We will have now reports to the commission. Mr. Byer.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, since the last meeting, we've had a lot going on. We've gotten the commission offices moved over into the new space. We're working on currently getting the old office space ready for the probate judge, and then so on. We'll move the other departments as well after the first of the year. We've talked a little bit more about the way we can centralize our collection of citizen calls in the office and making sure that we're getting the citizens to talk to a live human being instead of going through the phone tree and leaving voicemails. We worked on that. Kim and Sam have done an excellent job working on the phone tree and making sure that we're getting people to a person as quick as possible. We spoke about cross training earlier. We're implementing some cross training in the administrative office there to take care of our payroll functions, and we've set some target dates to have that done to where we're not limited by our lack of knowledge on some of that by other personnel. There's some discussion about job descriptions earlier. We're currently collecting all the wage and job data information that Ms. Charlene Smith talked about in a format that would be similar to what she is asking for to be able to do her estimates. We're doing that to have it prepared for the next phase of our personnel policy discussions. We're probably about 2/3 of the way through the existing manual, would be my estimate, and so we're having that information prepared to where we can do analysis with our department heads and the elected officials. Before you leave tonight, I have, if you haven't already seen me, and some signatories that I need for our depositories that we have. We've got about 30 different accounts that we've got to get those signatures on. At our next meeting, our December meeting, we'll be actually declaring those depositories that we'll use, or that we can use in the county. We've been looking at several facilities for improvements and repairs. I know the chairman has given me a couple of them. We've also looked at some that were already programmed in the budget. We're also looking at the voter precincts. We will not have enough time to have that done by the December Senate election, but by the summer election, we're hoping to have that done. Two of note are Rock Springs and the Church of the Nazarene. I think I've talked to both commissioners about those as well. We've got some additional maps that maybe provide us some insight into some potential landing sites for those locations. On the road front, 3 other items. We've just completed assessment of all our county paved roads. That's a 2-year process that we do, and we take that data and we provide that to the commissioners to look at our needs assessment on our paved roads. We're also still waiting approval from ALDOT on our 2 big projects, the Redland Corridor and the Roundabout. We're still trying to get to the point where we can start acquiring right-of-way. That's our holdup right now, getting to that part. And then lastly, we've got a project with 14 and Grandview Road in Kinsley that we've been working hand in hand with the city of Millbrook. That's some signalization, intersection improvements that we've been talking to them or with them and DOT for the better part of a year and a half, trying to get that to finalization. We own 2 of the legs into those 2 intersections that are being discussed. We're trying to do as much that we can to help the city get those done with our in-kind forces and trying to get that to where it's not a huge burden on the county. Mr. Chairman, that is a long-winded report, but I think it was necessary for just to show that we've been active since the last commission meeting. Do y'all have any questions for me or any comments?
Thank you very much for the report. Mr. Courtney?
I have no report this evening, sir.
Thank you. All right, we'll proceed with reports from the commission. We'll begin with Commissioner Holt.
I'm very pleased to see that we have the people here tonight and the input that each of you have done tonight, and I greatly appreciate that. And I learned something tonight. I don't know what y'all are talking about the paper, because I didn't see it. So maybe I'll find out later and go see it. But and I'll say this to you, Mr. Waters, you can put what you want in there as long as you leave my family alone. You know, just come after me, but leave them alone. I do greatly appreciate all of the input from all the people, and I want you to understand something clearly. I'm not against this transition. I just want to make sure we do it right, and we make sure we got all the bases covered. And I mentioned this earlier, when we got two gentlemen that have 40 years combined experience, I think it's important that we get their input. I mean, you know, obviously they did an acceptable job. I've not heard anybody say anything different. So I think any input you get, the older you get, the more you learn about gathering facts. And there's a couple of things I did want to mention, though, in my report. You mentioned, Mr. Chairman, about, or somebody did, somebody mentioned, I take it back, Commissioner Macon, about licensed inspectors, mobile homes. When speaking to Judge Insland and Judge Stubbs, for some reason that position was done away with. Well, it wasn't filled. There's nobody doing it. Not right now, but I think it's still in the budget. It is, but I suggest, Judge Insland told me face to face, we're missing a lot of revenue by not hiring a person to get out and inspect all the mobile homes, not just in parks, but individually. So there's a lot of things and a lot of input you can get by asking questions to these other gentlemen. So one thing that I would like from you, Commissioner Macon, not tonight and not over the phone, if you'll just get it together and call, I can get it. I'd like to know the number of taxable properties we have and how frequently we appraise those properties, because that's another source of revenue. So there's a lot of things to do to generate revenue and a lot of ways to approach issues. I just want to make sure so that we don't have questions like you two gentlemen brought up tonight, that when we do, if we do this transition, that we've talked about it, discussed it openly in the meeting during the work session, and everybody, whether they're here or not, the newspapers are here, can understand what we're doing. I think that's important, and I agree with that aspect that both you guys said. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not against it, and I don't want anybody here tonight to think I am. I just want to make sure, because as I mentioned to an employee earlier, one of y'all brought up this topic. We compensated these people for the job they're doing. So when we do that, we need to have a plan up front to say what we're going to do for these other people that's going to be accepting that responsibility. And I think that's what you gentlemen said. So those kind of things need to be tied down before we vote on anything as to what we're going to do to compensate Joe or Susie for what their increased duties are going to be. And I think you guys would probably agree with that, because I think we need to be fair with all of our employees when it comes to that. And that was my contention that night when I didn't vote to do what we did. But that's all I have to say in relation to that. So I appreciate y'all's input about the transparency, because I think we're trying to be transparent. I talked to you, Mr. Mays. I haven't talked to you, Mr. Waters. And I think we had a fair conversation, because I don't want you to think that I would do anything that was not right. Right. Yeah. Right. And I appreciate y'all's input. You call me anytime, and as you know, I'll talk to you. So, but I do appreciate y'all being here tonight, and I just want you to know I think this commission is a good commission. I think we're trying to do the right thing. We're learning. So, bear with us. Thank you.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Commissioner Holt, regarding your question about the mobile home license inspector, the history of that position, if my memory serves me correct, and Commissioner Reeves might have further information because he was on the commission in 2009 when that position was created for a former county employee, and that position remained in effect until that former county employee ran for commission in 2011, 2012, and it's my understanding after he was elected commissioner that that position was basically done away with or not filled. Commissioner Reeves might shed more light on that, but that's what records indicate. Thank you all for coming. I want to commend Commissioner Reeves and congratulate him on being one of the honorees at the Veterans Tribute at the Trinity Episcopal Church here in Wetumpka. It was an overflow crowd. I know Chairman Stubbs was there. I see Corey sitting out there. He was there. Tremendous event, and rightly so that Commissioner Reeves was one of the honorees. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Mercer.
Thank you, Chairman Stubbs. I as well want to thank everyone for being here tonight and appreciate the comments that were made. Do want to report that I was able to attend the ACCA fall meeting in Alex City. Myself and Commissioner Daughtry were able to go. And I can tell you one of the things that we heard most discussed was broadband. That continues to be a topic of conversation continues to be a topic of conversation wherever we gather as commissioners, whether it be in a informal setting as such as we were that night in Alex City, or when I'm attending a legislative committee meeting that always is discussed. We continue to work with ACETA as we have for the last number of months, making sure that other providers know that Elmore County is a great place to invest in such services. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Mercer. Commissioner Reeves?
Thank you all for coming tonight, and one of the things that I wanted to share with you is that I'm one-fifth of this commission, and I think in my expertise, if I could shed some light on something that would keep us out of trouble, make us see that we go down the right road in the commission, and then I wouldn't mind doing that. And like I said, I had a problem with the way we went about giving certain employees, and you brought that up in your talk a few minutes ago, and if we got employees that are grade 7 and we move certain ones to a grade 8, and then we got other grade 7 we didn't even justify even moving them, and then we move these, and then the others just sitting there. I mean, what I'll bring to the commission is that if any of those employees would go to, I think the equal opportunity employees, we couldn't justify why we moved them, because it was nothing added to the job description and nothing take away. Well, here we go again. Okay, if we gonna give other services, that's the reason I say I want to know the bottom line, and this is how you know how much it costs. Because you don't have to update the job description and say, these are the duties for this and this and who we're going to be getting. So we're going to reward them again for a job description that it wasn't changed, but we just felt that we should do it. And yeah, I talked to the chairman a week or two before, but like I said, on the 1 cent raise that we gave across the board, no, we didn't talk about that, but we did talk about the others about the transition plan, and I think that we're transparent, and I think if anybody want to see the salary of any of the employees you were talking about, just ask for them, and then we'll show we are transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. I too appreciate everyone being here tonight. Commissioner Daughtry addressed the Veterans Tribute, and I was there and saw Commissioner Reeves being recognized, and it was a great honor to be there for that. And Commissioner Daughtry doesn't say that he was there also as a performer playing the piano, and so I got some good pictures of him up there on the piano, and he did a fantastic job. So he's a great talent. If you haven't seen him, I hope that you have the opportunity to do so. I feel strongly, as my fellow commissioners do, that our intentions are always to do what is best for the county. I think that these fine commissioners that sit alongside me. We're all committed to the county. I think that it is evident in our day-to-day lives and the things that we do and the effort that we put forth. And I hope that that many of the positive things that this county commission does and has done over the last 12 months are recognized. Unfortunately, a lot of things just get glazed over, but there are many things that these men do in service in the community, in efforts made here as the county commission, and I would hope that those things are also recognized and that people will take time to identify those things and look forward to other positive things that we're trying to do. We live in a different world now than we were, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, 100 years ago. And there's differences of opinion on how we approach the change. I think I have 4 children at home. I have a 16-year-old and a 5-year-old, and my 5-year-old is better on a computer than I am, and so I have to adapt, and we have the opportunity to adapt as well. And I'd like to emphasize that, as Mr. Mays stated, a lesson learned on some of these things, and tonight was evidence of that, in that we have considered a one-stop service provided to the citizens. We have opened it up to a public hearing. It was in the newspaper. We're trying to solicit people's opinions on this. We're encouraging the commissioners to ask questions and find out. No decisions have been made. We're probably far from decisions because there's been more questions tonight than answers. So I hope that everyone walks away with that understanding that this is not a unilateral decision or something that we've just concocted. This is something that's done in several other counties, that they've found it to be beneficial. Our revenue commissioner goes to conferences and finds out about these things, comes back and says, hey, let's try it. But we have resources in the county that have served in these capacities for 40 years, as Commissioner Holt says. We should find out what they think. So this by no means is something that we're just deciding to do. So I think that we all have the opportunity to take away from tonight the questions that were asked and evaluate them and see if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, then we'll continue to do exactly what we're doing right now, which isn't bad. I mean, what we're doing right now, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's also nothing wrong with seeing if there's a better way. And so we may find that there's not a better way, or we may find that it makes fiscal sense and it's better for the citizens, and it's something we proceed. So I'm sure we'll have more opportunities to talk about that. We will now have calendar dates from Ms. Kim.
Wednesday, November 22nd, the courthouse will close at noon and remain closed through Friday, November 24th. Monday, November 27th is our next commission meeting at 5 with the business meeting following.
All right, thank you. We will reconvene in a few minutes. All right, I'd like to welcome you back to our Elmore County Commission business meeting dated Monday, November 13, 2017 at 6:45. Call the meeting to order. We'll begin with an invocation offered by Commissioner Holt, following which Commissioner Daughtry will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. We hope that you will continue to give us guidance and direction so that we perform our duties that are in accordance with your will. We ask that you be with the less fortunate tonight, because we had a lot of deaths in the last week or so that I'm familiar with. As Commissioner Daughtry said, that we want to especially recognize our veterans, because what they did is why we're able to do what we're doing. So we don't want to lose sight of that. And again, just give us the guidance and direction that you would have us to have so that we can do the job in accordance with what you would like us to do. We ask these things in your Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Let us stand and face the flag, please. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Kim, will you call roll, please?
Commissioner Holt,
Here.
Commissioner Daughtry.
Here.
Chairman Studd,
Here.
Commissioner Mercer,
Here.
Commissioner Reeves.
All right, we'll proceed with our regular business. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the October 23, 2017 Commission meeting as presented during the work session?
Motion.
In the previous minutes from last week?
I got it. I see it.
Oh, okay. You got it, Kim?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right, with that change, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the October 23, 2017 Commission meeting as presented during the work session?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Give it to Commissioner Daughtry. Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry,
Yes.
Chairman Studd,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the memorandum of warrants for the period of October 19, 2017 through November 3, 2017?
Go ahead. I make a motion.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry.
Yes.
Chairman Studd,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
All right, proceeding with old business. Is there a motion to approve the rescheduling of the public hearing for a 020 restaurant retail liquor license application by El Patron Mexican Grill LLC for El Patron Mexican Grill, 65 Lightwood Road, Deepsville, Alabama, 36022, to Monday, November 27, 2017 at 5 p.m.?
I make that motion.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry,
Yes.
Chairman Studd,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
All right, proceeding with new business, is there a motion to approve the authorizing the Revenue Commissioner to advertise and hire Mapper One?
Motion approved.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry,
Yes.
Chairman Studd,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
All right, proceeding, is there a motion to approve or deny the reclassifying, to reclassify one mapping clerk position to one GIS tech position?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry,
Yes.
Chairman Studd,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
No.
All right, we'll proceed with a motion to carry over a private cemetery application for Manor Family Cemetery in Titus, Alabama.
I move that we do that. A motion.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry,
Yes.
Chairman Studd,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
All right, proceeding, is there a motion to approve the Financial Edge accounting software renewal agreement with Blackbaud?
Motion approved.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry,
Yes.
Chairman Studd,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve PaperSave accounting software renewal agreement with White Owl?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry,
Yes.
Chairman Studd,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
All right, we'll proceed. Is there a motion to approve fiscal year 17 additional EMPG grant funding for Certified Local Emergency Manager Certification Cooperative Grant Agreement?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt,
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry,
Yes.
Chairman Studd,
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer,
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves.
Yes.
All right, is there a motion to carry over petition for reimbursement of excess funds from tax sale of real property by Stanley D. Foster for number 2919-06-24-0000002.001?
Make a motion.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves?
Yes.
Proceeding, motion to carry over petition for reimbursement of excess funds from tax sale of real property by Stanley D. Foster for number 29/19/06/24/0000002.004.
Motion to carry over.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the consent docket with the items listed?
I make a motion, we do. Approve it.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry?
Yes.
Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves?
Yes.
Proceeding with personnel notifications, notification of transfer of Taryn Franklin from dispatch to task force analyst, new budgeted position effective 10/30/17. Notification of transfer of Lona Jeannie Ward from sheriff's office to dispatcher tier 2, replace T. Franklin effective 10/31/17. Notification of hire of Catherine Erin, administrative clerk, replace L. Ward effective 10/30/17. Notification of hire of Chase Jenkins, corrections officer, replace J. Estes, effective 10/30/17. Notification of hire of Jesse Hill, corrections officer, replace K. Smith, effective 11/13/17. Any additional reports to the commission from Mr. Byer or Mr. Courtney? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Ms. Kim?
Commissioner Holt?
Yes.
Commissioner Daughtry? Chairman Stubbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Mercer?
Yes.
Commissioner Reeves?